Do you struggle to get your child to sleep at night? Does your child not want to fall asleep? Can your child not stay asleep? Do you have wake-ups, or does your child wake up early? Or do you struggle with sleep? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you why that might be and all my best tips to fix sleep by adjusting light and circadian rhythm and body clocks. Because without sleep, your child cannot turn symptoms around, cannot develop cognitively, cannot detoxify or function. This is super important. But before we dive in, hit the subscribe button and like this video and follow for more, because these are the types of tips that I share on my podcast and these blog videos every single week. What is it that makes it so important for us to sleep at night? First of all, the sleep is in different stages. And some phases of the sleep actually detoxifies the brain and allows the brain to release toxins and purify and cleanse the brain so that it can take in nutrients later in the sleep stages. So for the brain to function normally, you need to sleep for at least 8 hours. Children need to sleep for way more than 8 hours, and teenagers need to sleep as much as they can. So sleep is important for hormonal balance, for blood sugar levels, stable blood sugar levels, for neuroprotection, for dealing with trauma and emotional issues, for cognitive development, for hormonal balances and optimal levels of hormones. But it's also important for detoxification of the brain and for nutrients to be transported into the brain. And sleep deprivation, which is something that is common in our modern society, is actually linked to Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. And we know that autism, many of the symptoms that our autistic children deal with are very similar to the behavior and the struggles and the lack of understanding and social skills and cognitive skills that our children with autism are struggling with as well. So this is really important. Society is plagued by overall jet lag. And our modern society is not designed to support sleep, so you really need to mitigate that. Modern society is all about productivity and consuming. And so if you live in a city or if you're consumed in modern lifestyle, well, it's not going to be optimal for sleep, because what you actually want to do is to go back to the way that we lived when we were living outside in the jungle or in nature, where we would go to bed with the sun and rise with the sun, and we would live from the land. And many of the things that I'm going to teach you today is going to mimic the way that we supported sleep and the way that we're designed to sleep. And that's actually the reason why we're dealing with sleep issues, is that we are living in such an artificial rhythm and environment and so much noise pollution and light pollution that is actually disrupting sleep. But there are nutritional and spiritual and biological reasons for lack of sleep as well. So let's start with some of the issues that can disrupt sleep so that you know that you're avoiding the most common sleep destruction things that we do. I don't know how else to put it, but some of the things that we do that destroy sleep. Number one is light toxicity. So how do we adjust the circadian rhythm so that the light is supporting our sleep and keeping us awake when we want to be awake and calm when we want to calm down? So it's really important to get outside in the AM hours. Now, I live in a country where, for example, now until after Christmas, it is so dark. It gets dark around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun doesn't rise until around 8 o'clock. So it's a really short window, and it's really dark in the morning and it's dark in the afternoon. And one of the things that I had to learn through my autism turnaround journey is that I could not live a full-time job lifestyle, modern lifestyle in the city. I had to quit my job, move into the countryside and work from home in order to heal my son. I don't know what the symptoms want for you to change so that this can work for you, but one of the things that you can do is that you can go to bed earlier and get up earlier as well. But it is really important to get daylight exposure, and in the wintertime, as much time outside when the sun is shining or the sun is not shining. Even if the sun is behind clouds and you're living in a dark part of the world, that's better than daylight lamps. It's the Kelvin and the light exposure is much more efficient than those daylight mimickers that you can buy and use indoors. So I've never used daylight lamps, but I've always, since the beginning process of the recovery, made sure that we spend time outside in the daytime, even when there are only a few hours in the daytime to do so. Many of the children with autism they will intuitively and instinctively go outside in the morning, take off their shoes. I have a lot of examples of children who actually take off their clothes because they know how important it is to get daylight exposure to the skin. The skin is full of light receptors, and the main receptor for sunlight is in the retina in the eye, and that is the main body clock communicating with all the other clocks in the organs in the body. So it's really important to get outside and get light to the eyes without any glasses on, without any sunglasses on, and without any sun screen on, so that the communication from the retina to the body clocks via the skin can happen without any problems or any disturbance. So make sure you get enough daylight in the daytime. If you can get daylight and grounding at the same time, whether you're using grounding moccasins, which will be shoes with leather soles, not rubber soles, or grounding straps, or if you're able to be barefoot, which I'm doing most year for at least 10 to 20 minutes, and I'm building up to it. So it's now November and I did about 30 minutes by the beach today. But of course you got to be really careful that you're not getting too cold and that you're not getting frostbites or anything if you're in a very cold area. So that's one thing. So when you get sunlight or daylight exposure in the daytime, in the AM hours, that actually helps the body to produce melatonin later on in the day. So after sunset, the body starts winding down, starts lowering cortisol, and it starts producing melatonin to get you ready to become tired and fall asleep at night. If you're then exposed to, so this is sleep disruptor number 2, if you're exposed to a lot of artificial light, and especially light from screens, phones, tablets, gaming, TV at night, that will disrupt sleep because it will make the body think that it's 12 a.m. and it will raise cortisol and it will disturb sleep later on at night because it won't make it possible for the body to produce the levels of melatonin that's needed to stay asleep all night. So what you can do is you can use blue light blockers. You can get these glasses that filters out the blue light, and you can actually sense how wearing those, if you're in front of a screen or watching TV after sunset, that you actually become tired quicker and you want to go to sleep quicker. So that's number 2. Number 3 is make sure you don't have any heavy meals or eat 4 hours before going to bed. Heavy meals or sugar is the worst you can do for sleep late at night. Snacking at night is a really bad idea. So we tend to stop eating 4 hours before going to sleep, and no heavy meals or snacking before going to sleep. And my son even knows this, my recovered son, he knows, okay, if I get home and it's 8 o'clock, it's too late to eat, I'll wait until the next day. He doesn't snack late at night because he cannot sleep if he does that. He knows that from personal experience because he's very well connected to his body. The body also loves regularity and routines. So go to bed at the same time every day and get up at the same time every day, even during weekends. So teenagers, they need to sleep in the morning, which is why mainstream schools might not be the best idea for teenagers, because they actually need to sleep probably from 9-10 o'clock until 9 the next day. So I'm monitoring my sleep, and I have been for years with this ring. It's called an Aura ring, and it tells me my ideal bedtime because it measures my heart rate variability, which is my body's ability to heal and repair and restore throughout the night. And that will also determine my readiness level, whether I'm supposed to work out or not that day. It's going to be above 80, my readiness level, for me to be able to work out and exercise without actually damaging the body. So my ring tells me when to go to bed. It tells me the midpoint of my sleep, my chronotype. It tells me my temperature, my heart rate variability, my heart rate, resting heart rate, which has to lower during sleep. And so I know that my ideal bedtime is between 9:15 and 9:30, no later than that. And when I go to bed at 9:15, it takes a while for the body to get the right amount of deep sleep and REM sleep, so rapid eye movement sleep and deep sleep. And you need to be in bed for 9 hours to get 8 hours of REM and deep sleep and regular sleep. So you need to have at least 1 hour and 30 minutes of REM sleep and 1 hour and 30 minutes of deep sleep to detoxify the brain and to get the right nutrients in, to restore and repair and digest the emotional experiences that you've had and really get restorative sleep. So that's why I'm in bed for 9 hours in order to get my 8 hours, which I know that I need. And I go to bed every single day the same time. Same with my son. We live together here. My recovered son and I, we live together here in the tiny home most of the time. And my youngest son is also very regular on his bedtime. None of us stay up late at night or go clubbing or expose ourselves to a lot of blue light in the evening either. So I don't know if I mentioned that sleep also regulates blood sugar, that sleep regulates hormones, that sleep regulates behavior, and sleep regulates your child's ability to learn how to speak, to learn social skills, to learn about how to fit into the world. So sleep is part of your child's ability to become independent and communicate. Heavy meals and light toxicity, sugar, and obviously caffeine is something that really can affect sleep negatively. So let's move to what are some of the things you can do to improve sleep, to regulate circadian rhythm, even if you live in a dark part of the world in the wintertime. So we already mentioned grounding and light exposure, daylight exposure. Even on a cloudy day, nothing beats that. As many hours as possible. Yes, that's number one. Number two is you can actually use red light exposure like near and far infrared rays. I use the Juve light and my son uses the Juve light. We've got one in the backup apartments that we can use in the wintertime. I also have an infrasauna which has near infrared lights. So light therapy is a way for you to support sleep, as well as the blue light blockers that I already mentioned. Having a stable blood sugar and making sure that you are eating, especially in the dark phases of the year, you need to be more cautious with the carbs and the sugar and the fruit and the processed foods, because the more of that, the worse your sleep will be and the worse your circadian rhythm will be, because your body is designed to be more ketogenic if you're in a cold northern dark part of the world, because we're supposed to live from whatever we stored from summer, and then we're supposed to burn the fat that we accumulated throughout the summertime and eat more ketogenic in the wintertime. So we would have roots and dried meat and maybe some root vegetables or apples that we were able to store until maybe December, January, but that was about it. So it's the worst time of year to eat a lot of sugar and a lot of carbs and a lot of processed food and a lot of tropical fruits as well. Another thing you can do to improve sleep is cold exposure. Now, I'm not suggesting that you cold plunge your child into the ocean, but you might want to teach your child how to do sauna and winter swimming, or cold and hot therapy, so going into a sauna and then go into a cold shower afterwards. Both sauna and cold exposure improve sleep at night. So that's one thing you can do. You can do Epsom baths, soaks, either foot soaks or the whole body, soaking the body in Epsom baths in the evening. We used to do that in the beginning of the process when my son had problems with sleeping. And then avoid all foods with glutamates in them. And in the membership, we have a whole section on neuroprovoking foods and a food list where it's listed what types of food that is. But foods that are high in glutamates will also have a negative impact on sleep. So sauna and respecting the body clock and light and cold exposure and timing of food and circadian rhythm and grounding straps and being in the daylight, even in the darkest times of the year, those are some of the tips that can improve sleep. Now, getting to the final part is if you want to support sleep by adding in supplements, and one of the best supplements to do when it comes to sleep is magnesium threonate. Is one of the best sleep-inducing minerals. So mineral deficiency can also be a reason why your child is not sleeping at night. Obviously, constipation and blood sugar issues, if your child is not on a diet that fits the child's biotype, which is what we do in the membership. We teach you how to eat according to your biotype, eat according to circadian rhythm and the way that your child's body needs to fit into the land that it lives and into the hemisphere that you live in. So if your child's not eating a diet that fits its biotype and its current needs, that can be a massive sleep disruptor, as well as parasites, especially when it is full moon. And so it's really important to get the immune system up and running, to get your routines up and running, to make sure that you are nutritionally and lifestyle and circadian rhythm wise in a good place with your lifestyle. So all of those things are things that you learn in the Turnaround membership as you go through the phases, and I really encourage you to take it step by step, press play, and begin with phase 1 after you've completed the Mindset Foundation course. So if you're not already in the membership, that's where you want to be. If you're watching this video outside the membership somewhere, that's where you really want to be. So sleep is key when it comes to turning symptoms around, autism symptoms, ADHD symptoms, aggression, anxiety, depression. It's all part of the problem when it comes to the massive epidemic. Actually, we have a sleep deprivation epidemic, an anxiety, depression, ADHD, and autism epidemic, and it's linked. So on average, a modern person sleeps around 6.5 hours. And that's like an overview of how people sleep. So there will be people who sleep much less than that, and that is way too little in order to maintain balance and health. Teenagers need to sleep much more than that, and around 15% of all teenagers do not sleep enough. So we are sleep deprived, and that is part of the reason why we have this epidemic. So you need to fix it, and you need to fix it now. This is a bonus tip video about sleep problems and circadian rhythm problems and darkness problems where children don't want to go to sleep or they wake up at night. And it seems like it is a practical problem, but there are so many other aspects to it. So first off, I want to say that depending on when your child wakes up or you wake up, there might be organs in the body that are struggling. So if we're waking up between 12 and 1, it might mean one thing. If we're waking up between 1 and 3, it's the liver that's at play and struggling, and that is also linked to some emotional things like anger, for example. So I have posted the body clock PDF that you can download below this video so that you can check what's going on. It's from the membership, the turnaround membership, and it's from the body clock lessons and masterclasses. So that's one thing. You got to understand that there might be something wrong in the body, where the body is weak in certain areas, and your body is telling you that by waking up at that time where the organ is supposed to restore and rest. Another thing that is more on the emotional side of things is that when children struggle to let go and sleep at night, there might be some emotional problem there. Why is that and how is that? Well, sleep is a very vulnerable place to be in. When you're sleeping, you are biologically, the body doesn't know that you're in a modern society inside a house and you're protected, but in sleep you are vulnerable and you're dependent on your family to protect you. You are completely exposed. And so if children don't feel this true strong bond with their parents because we as moms are too overworked or too detached from our own body or too much in fight and flight ourselves, or do not have this self-parenting skill when it comes to taking care of our own needs, our own sleep, our own nutrition, our own emotional healing, which is something that I'm really, really interested in facilitating for moms in the turnaround process, then it can feel like the child feels like it's not safe to let go. So it's the same thing when we have a lot of tantrums and the child is very uncooperative and the child only wants to eat nuggets and the child only wants to do this, that, or the other. It's when the child feels that we don't have leadership and integrity, no self-parenting, no integrity, that no lived experience in the lifestyle that we want to implement for them, they put themselves in the driver's seat, and that is very unsafe for them. And so there might be an aspect where the child doesn't want to let go because the child doesn't want to let go of you, because there's not this feeling of true bonding and true safety in your own company. And that's not something you should be feeling guilty about or shameful about, but it's a message like any other symptom. There's a message behind the symptom, and the message is, I need to be more in integrity. I need to be more truthful. I need lived experience when it comes to parenting myself in a kind way, in a safe way. I need to be practicing what I preach. So what you see is what you get is really important for children. Instinctively, they know when we're in denial in some areas in life. They know when we are lying to ourselves, when we're binge eating in a closet. They know when we are pretending that we are one thing and then in reality we're something completely different. So we cannot pretend with our kids, because instinctively and intuitively they know everything, and they tend to struggle to let go at night because it's so emotionally challenging when they don't feel safe, and they don't feel safe when your inner child doesn't feel safe with you as a parent, because you're either too harsh, too performance driven, denying your own needs for sleep, nutrition, and rest and healing, or other things. So there's an emotional aspect and there's an organ-based aspect to waking up at night. We can also struggle to sleep if we have mineral deficiencies and if we have a light deficiency or light mismatch, which I'm covering in video number 1, or the first part of this video. So I just wanted to re-emphasize this and just wanted to point towards a body clock PDF that you can download below so that you have more tools in your toolbox to deal with this issue. The final point is a spiritual, existential point, and that is that sometimes the problems that we have, such as sleep issues, are messengers from God and messages about what needs to change on a larger scale. So in my case, I needed to move from the city into the countryside to be able to be outside more, to be able to ground more, to have my children outside as soon as they come home from school. It might be that the message is that you need to take your shoes off and give your children grounding shoes, but there might be something bigger here, which is that we are actually depending on light much more than we think. And if we're someone who's very dark-skinned, living in Norway might not be the most optimal place to be for your child's healing. And so if you are someone who in your DNA and ancestrally are from the equator and of African descent, you should maybe consider living somewhere or going somewhere more, going on more breaks and going on vacations where there's a lot of sun. And you can actually do that by going on vacation in the summertime, or even going on vacation in the wintertime and soak in some sun for some weeks. And that will actually add wellness and health to your bank account. So you can actually save up sun that way. So for people who live in very dark areas, it's a good idea to go travel if it's possible, or maybe even consider moving to Mexico or Costa Rica or whatever is possible for you. I know this is a big thing, but autism asks us to do big things. Symptoms asks us to do big things. So I had to say that too. No, I need to make a video. Go to sleep. Go to sleep, sweetie.